What's going on, guys? Today in this video, which I'm editing well after the fact, we have a 2003 Acura RSX Type S. So here I'm just heat shrinking this bad boy. I got my film laid out. It's a pretty good size window, and it's one I've never done before. You know, obviously being a 2003, it's pretty old. And like this thing is like mint. These are also a pretty low volume car, meaning, you know, they didn't make a whole lot of them, so they weren't extremely popular even when they were new. So I've never done one of these before. Just kind of taking my time. It's gonna take me a little bit longer than it normally would to shrink this back window. A couple things that I have to keep in mind here. We got that wiper arm that we need to cut around. It's kind of an interesting shape, but then the interior panels actually overhang the glass. So when I go to cut it, it's gonna be a little bit tricky to see my lines. This is definitely a window that you would want to use glass aid on, because then you can just put your glass aid, if you don't know what that is, it's like a white tape. You can put that on your dot matrix border basically, and then when you cut your film, one, you can see the white line through the tint, so you can see where to cut really without even having a light. And two, it's going to protect the glass. Now I use stainless blades when I'm cutting on cars, so I've never scratched glass with a stainless blade. You can definitely do it, don't get me wrong, it can be done. But yeah, so we're just cruising right along here, just shrinking my fingers, taking my time. I'm voiceovering because I had the heater on, and you know, it's super loud. And then I also had one of my buddies over here detailing a car in the other bay that's at my back right now. So just loud, we had a conversation. Just wanted to, you know, keep it more about the task at hand here without all the annoying background noise. Especially that heater, dude. It's super annoying. Just constant. It sucks. So as you can see, just using the good old Wagner super basic $20-$30 heat gun. I'm wanting to try out one of the new, or I guess they're not new, but the fusion heat guns. I don't know. Heat gun's pretty much a heat gun, but I guess the fusion has more airflow and gets hotter than these guns. So hey, if it saves me a few minutes, you know, it might be worth checking out. But the downside is they're considerably more pricey than these Wagners. So, I don't know. These Wagners, man, you can get 6 months to a year out of them, depending on how many times you drop them on the floor. and I'm pretty bad about dropping them on the floor, honestly. I'm pretty rough on my heat guns. But I figure, you know, for $30, if they last 6 months, you know, that's basically 150 cars. So 150 cars at, you know, basically $100 absolute minimum ticket. You know, they're making me some money. I don't really care. I'm not gonna, I mean, because here's the thing, even if you do take care of them, sometimes they just still, like, they'll just crap out on you. Like, I had one just completely stop working, like, it just turned off. I mean, it just happens. Normally, they'll do what this one's doing right now. It makes just a weird noise, and it just doesn't seem to get as hot. So, I've got a new one, but I'm waiting on that orange fusion afterburn tape, I think is what it's called. But it's an insulated tape. The reason why you want that orange tape on the tip, you put 3 or 4 wraps of that tape around there, and then if you accidentally touch yourself, yourself, the car, anything like that, it's not gonna like melt or burn instantly. It's gonna keep that tip much cooler. In fact, one time when I was mobile, I had a little kid at these people's house I was tending for. They were outside, and I was just packing up my stuff, and my heat gun was laying kind of beside my stuff. And this little kid, as I was putting stuff in the car, back in the truck, walked over there and just almost grabbed a hold of it. Almost grabbed a hold of my heat gun, and I was so thankful that I had that afterburn tape on there, because I knew that even if she did grab a hold of it, she wouldn't get severely, burnt or anything like that. And dude, it's for that kind of safety, it's super cheap. And I've burnt myself with heat guns. I'm sure most of you guys, if you're watching this and you've been tending for a while, you've burnt yourself too. I've burnt my legs, going to sit it on the cord and it swing, just touch your calf or whatever, and yeah, it sucks. So always run the afterburn tape. But that being said, we're on the other side now. Same deal. I don't know if you noticed, but I started to get a bit more attention than I wanted to on that other side. So I'm going to start working on this side and even it out. Another thing that kind of makes this a little bit tricky is having that big spoiler there. I think it looks pretty cool, don't get me wrong. But a lot of times on the hatchback, you can just stand at the back and just shrink the whole bottom half of the window. You don't have to do side to side, you can just do the whole thing. That kind of made it a little bit difficult. And like I said, this thing is basically in mint condition, especially for its age. It's extremely low miles, so I don't want to stand there at the back and have the cord draped over the spoiler, or rubbing up against it or anything like that. So shrinking our fingers. This car is getting, I guess I should talk about that. It's getting Helios Nova, which is a carbon film, lifetime warranty, awesome stuff. I love it. I think it's honestly the best value, as far as price versus what you get out of it. Definitely a great film. Love all the Helios products. As you can see, I got Helios boxes stacked up over there on the corner. So basically that little closet right there, that storage room that you see off to the right, I was supposed to get a key to that, and it ended up taking me like 2 months to get the guy to give me a key. So that was a whole deal. This whole lease fiasco has been a bit of a deal. I think it's starting to work out now, but we'll see. Definitely love the space, but not all that glitters is gold, I guess we could say that. But shrinking around the top, I'm gonna lift a little air underneath it, lay it back down. I'm trying not to work myself into a corner on this corner, basically. It kind of fought me a little bit. One thing I would have done different, had I having done one now, I would have shrank the entire middle, or I'm sorry, I would have shrank the corners first. Instead of starting in the middle and working my way out, I would have shrank all 4 corners about 6 to 8 inches in, and then I would have came through and shrank the middle. Because basically what I've done is I've basically pushed a lot of excess film off to this one corner where I really don't want it. So you can see I gotta kind of finesse it a little bit. I gotta heat a little bit, push a little bit, heat a little bit, push a little bit, and then I don't want to get the film too hot, so I'm gonna come back over to the middle, start working that out. I could have saved myself 5 or 10 minutes if I would have just done the corners first, basically. And that's something you learn with time and experience, what windows you need to kind of do things a little bit differently on. But I mean, honestly, at first glance, when I was looking at this car before I even started tinting, anytime I tint a new vehicle, I like to look at the inside. I like to see what kind of border I have. I like to see all that kind of thing. Do the interior panels touch the glass? Am I going to have to remove anything? I like to take a look at those kind of things first. And so when doing that, I realized that I had a pretty decent gap between the glass and the interior panels. But as I mentioned earlier, the interior panels overhang the glass, meaning if you look from the outside in, you're going to see the edge of your trim panels, and then about an inch to the side is where you're going to find your dot matrix. So you know, as I'm shrinking this, I'm thinking, okay, I have to cut it. I've got to cut it pretty spot on, and I have to cut it pretty spot on for all the way around because of the wiper arm motor. I've got to have the spacing for that. I've got to have, I can't get too much excess anywhere because it's going to make it more difficult to tuck. So, and then, I'm sitting here thinking about I've got to tuck it up inside without touching anything, and you'll see that was a major fail. Like, it actually came out phenomenal, but I struggled with getting the film in there. Like on the reverse roll, I don't know, it just was not wanting to come undone, and you'll see here in a few minutes. So we're doing just the last bit of the shrinking here, and I'm going to shut up until it comes time to cut, and then I'll walk you through my, I'll point out some things when I put the lights in there and all that stuff. I'll walk you through that, what I'm thinking there, and all that good stuff. But overall, not a super difficult car to do. I think mentally, I thought this back window was going to be a lot more difficult. And I, like I said, I did some things a little bit differently, and I wish I would have done things a little bit differently still. Like I said, I thought it was going to be a lot more difficult than it is. It really wasn't that bad. Would I want to try this if I was new to tinting? No, not at all. You definitely need to know how to read your film and see, what the film's doing heat-wise and all that. When to heat it, when to push it, all that good stuff, because you don't have a whole lot. If you're using a 36-inch roll, you do not have much excess. Oh, so apparently we're going to skip the cutting part. Okay. Oh, I probably didn't have my GoPro on, or it died or something. That's the, like I said, I'm editing this like a month and a half later. I've been waiting to do this voiceover. I needed the time to do it, and I needed a quiet place to do it. So this has been in the queue for a hot minute. But anyway, so we're prepping it. Steel wool scrubby pads. These things are excellent. I know some people don't like steel wool because they'll get fibers in the film. I've never had that issue. These things don't really fall apart unless you run them through the washing machine, so maybe has something to do with it. But I love, they're just like $3 a box for like, I don't know, 8 or 10 or something like that. But they have soap in them already, so you can just spray them and then just scrub, and you're getting that slight abrasiveness, and you're getting the cleaning aspects of it from the soap, and it roughs up these defrosters. It's kind of like sanding the defrosters and the dot matrix and stuff. I do every single back window this way, and every windshield. If a lot of windshields will have that dot matrix around the rear view mirror and stuff. I'll do those the same way with the steel wool pad. Some windshields will have the dot matrix look, but it'll actually be sandwiched in the layers of glass. So if you feel it on the inside and it's smooth, then I'll skip that step. I'll use just a regular blue scrubby. But if it's got any kind of texture to it, any dot matrix or anything like that, I hit it with the steel wool. Now you can see I'm kind of trying to get my steel wool up in that hatch, like in between the trim. That's what I was talking about earlier, how your trim kind of overhangs your glass. Like, you're looking at it here, you can't see the dot matrix because it's tucked up in there. So, taking my time. It's an older car, it's got low miles, but still, we need to make sure that we get this prep right, because at this point I've spent quite a bit of time on it. Look at that. Look how nasty that is. That's just off of one little pass. I've put a bunch of time into shrinking it. And cutting it. I really don't want to mess this up and have to redo it. My thought process is, I know some guys are just, full speed ahead, go as fast as you can. I would rather slow down, get it right the first time, and be done with it. Even if it takes you an extra half hour, or see, now I'm kind of just trying to figure out, is this going to come off easy? Do I want to even take it off? Not 100% sure. Okay, so I know I can pull that out, and I actually do here, I think. See, I used to have one of these, so I never tinted. I didn't know anything about window tinting back then, but I did have to, put speakers in it and stuff like that. So I kind of know how these things come apart, but at this point I've just decided, you know what, it's not worth trying to pull this thing apart. Like I said, it's an older car. It's been well maintained and stuff, but I just don't want to break any of these plastic tabs or anything that hold them together. Really nice young man that owns it, and I don't want to have to call him and be like, hey, by the way, I broke 7 of your little retainer clip things, so I gotta order you some or whatever. So we're just gonna hit it with the steel wool again because of its age. So I'm pretty confident that we could have stuck it the first time and been fine. But again, it goes back to what I was just saying. I'd rather do it right the first time, make sure it's good to go, because like I said, this car has been sitting for a long time. It's like, I think he said he bought it with like 14,000 miles on it. Extremely low miles, so that means it's been sitting. It's getting, in a garage, hot and cold, condensation occurs. Those defroster lines are going to be corroded and rusty. So now we're going to take our Fusion Reflex, and we're going to tuck our towel up in there, and we're going to try to really work this edge. I want to get all that grit and any junk and trash that you can see. It's filthy. Now I'm going to go to a clean spot on the towel, and we'll do the other side, and we'll work that. But what I was saying earlier, I like to do it this way. I like to take, I like to take the extra time and make sure it's done right the first time, because you can go full steam ahead and go as fast as you can and all that, but if you mess up, especially on a back window, and you need to recut, reshrink, all that, one, you're losing a bunch of film, 4 or 5 feet in this case, something like 5 feet of film gone, wasted. Whatever your film cost is. This is carbon, so it's not super cheap. It's not, some, $50 a roll dyed film. It's considerably more expensive. You don't want to waste that. And then two, the biggest aspect is the time. If you've got to spend another, 15-20 minutes shrinking and cutting and all that stuff, you're not saving any time. Just slow down, do it right the first time. I like how I said I wasn't going to voice over this whole thing, and then I end up voice overing the entire thing. So it is what it is. So now we're just going to wipe this down, and I think this is why I don't get any steel wools in my tint. I always clean, I always wipe down with a towel. These microfibers, they'll grab anything. Now the problem is, as these get older, they will start to leave little tiny microfibers behind. So that's why the next step I do will be squeegeeing. Give me some coffee in here. You can see Bryce Gallagher of Gallagher's Auto Detailing got the Denali in there, doing the interior detail. That's another reason why we're doing the voiceover. We had, shop vac going, got the heater going, all that good stuff. So trying to get the corner to lift here. Spray a little slip underneath so the film will stick to the glass. Oh yeah, look at our defroster tabs. We had to cut around those. That was another thing we had to deal with. You'll get it set up here to reverse roll. And anytime I reverse roll, I like to get a lot of water on the, whether it's a back window or a windshield. I like to get a ton of water on that, like on that film. I would rather have more water on the glue. If I was going to pick one or the other, I'd rather have the film more wet than the glass. It just seems to work better that way for me. Also, I'm using a tint keg from sundistributingdirect.com. I believe also they have a one of the URLs you can use is toolsfortint.com, tintkeg.com. Any of those will come back to them, but these kegs are phenomenal. You can get cheaper kegs elsewhere, but listen here, I called them and I said, hey, first of all, when you call them, you're going to talk to somebody that knows something about tint, right? You're going to talk to somebody who has made money putting film on cars, on buildings, etc. You're not going to call and talk to somebody who, well, I don't know, we'll have to have somebody, I just work in the office, I'll just have to have somebody call you back, and then they never do. Like, that's not how these guys work. I call them up, I said, hey, I'm thinking about getting a keg, thinking about getting either a 175 or a 3-gallon, talk pros and cons, talk about the options, and ended up settling on a 3-gallon keg, 25 feet of hose. Now this hose is not your cheap Flexilla junk hose you get at AutoZone or whatever. This stuff has it's got a lining on the inside that's antimicrobial, so this will never grow. Like, you could leave water in this for months, you won't get mold or trash or floaties or anything that's going to end up in your film. So I've got an inline filter on it. It's like a 200 micron or something crazy. Here we go. So now we're squeegeeing. So this is going to get rid of any kind of dust that might have settled, any microfiber bits, all that stuff. I hate having to lay the film down like I did, but just the way this window is, I didn't really have any better method to get this reverse rolled and get it in there. Perfect world, I'd have a helper, roll it up on the outside of the glass. I need to get a peel board. I think that's going to be the next one of the next tint investments I'm going to make. I think that's just going to, since I'm in the shop now pretty much always, I think that's just the next step. Anyway, as I was saying, 200 micron filter, antimicrobial hose. It's got a custom wrap with my logo on it. They ship this thing out. If you want a wrap that is, like, they have some wrap options you can get with your keg. If you have one that's not custom, they will ship these things out in a couple of days, usually like same business day, depending on what time you order, right? I mean, super fast shipping. I had to wait on my keg to be, or my wrap to be made. They have somebody wrap it. Now here's another thing I don't like to do. I don't like to touch the adhesive, but again, I don't really have any choice on this particular deal. With that said, back to the, look, this is just a cluster, man. So now I'm like, well, now I need to unroll some more film, and yeah, this was the most difficult part of the install. I'm just so glad it came out clean. I'm super glad it came out clean. I don't know how it did, but it did. But yeah, Sun Distributing Direct, man, for the kegs. I know you can get them cheaper other places, but I just don't think you're going to find anybody that has a product that is as good as theirs with customer service that's as good as theirs. So I'm lining up my wiper arm, and now I'm going to try to tuck this up in here without getting it all over the plastic. Good thing I wiped all that stuff down. Alright, so yeah, just trying to wrestle this in there. Obviously you don't want to force it and cause any binding or anything like that. But yeah, man, the tent keg is a game changer. Definitely love it. You can run, I think this one will run up to 110 psi. I usually start out at 90 and then just you know, whatever it ends up being when it's empty. I mix about 2 gallons at a time. Slip solution, so much easier than spray bottles. Oh my gosh. Just trying to get everything lined up here. You know, I got those defrosters tabs. I got that little thing at the top of the hatch. I got the wiper arm. Everything's got to be perfect. You know, no light gaps, none of that stuff. Here in a minute, we'll be ready to squeegee. I like to kind of smooth it out a little bit with my hands and just make sure, you know, get rid of any of these big air pockets or whatever. You go hitting those with the squeegee. A lot of times you can crease your film that way, so I like to get it pretty well smooth first, then start squeegeeing. Get rid of that release liner. Now it's go time. Fusion Hybrid. Man, this is like my favorite squeegee right now. I really love it. Just kind of taking my time here. You know, don't want to mess anything up. Just kind of trying to see what it wants, where it wants to go, distribute it the way it wants. I don't want to fight the film on this. Also on this pass, I'm not using a ton of pressure. I'm just kind of gently getting the moisture out. I'm not being super aggressive with it. That will come once I get everything distributed the way I want it. Then I'll mist it down again, and I'll actually really put some force into it, and that will get any remaining moisture off of those defroster lines primarily. On this deal, if I remember correctly, I did end up having a couple little fingers shooting off the side. I'm talking little ones, maybe an inch or so. I don't remember if I filmed it or not. All I did, I don't even think I heated them up really after the fact. I think I just waited a little while and pushed them back out, and they stuck. I mean, the back window turned out flawless. Honestly, it was the side roll-up windows that gave me more of a fit than anything on this. I don't know. I don't really know. Actually, I take that back. I do know why, but so I double cut my film on my side windows. So when I cut, I got one layer facing one way, one layer facing the other, so that way I'm cutting my driver and passenger side patterns at the same time. And with the carbon film and ceramic as well, you can't really double shrink. What ends up happening is, the way I lay it out, my passenger side shrinks perfect, shrinks nice, lays down, never have any issues, never really more than maybe one little finger that pops up off the bottom. And a lot of that has to do with distribution, or sometimes your gaskets get super wet and it tries to draw that moisture back in there. Nothing that you would have to redo it for. You just leave it dry out for a little bit, or you could throw a little heat at it, or heck, you can stick a couple shanks on either side of it and let it dry, and then come back and push it down. But anyway, your driver's side is not going to end up like that. Your driver's side, since the carbon and ceramics block so much heat, it doesn't shrink. So on these super curvy front windows, you need that shrink, and so that ended up fighting me. Wasn't the end of the world. Ended up just you know, taking the shank, throwing some heat at it. What I should have done was I should have just popped the driver's side door panel off, hit it with the heat that way, and been done. But you know, there you go. We're wiping off our edges, making sure, you know, everything looks good. Now, hopefully, I remember to get a little bit of a finished product type view at it. Now, when I do hatchbacks, whether it's an SUV or car or whatever, I don't like to immediately close the hatch. I like to leave it open, so that way any moisture that's in the, what would be the front or the top or whatever you want to call it, when you close that, I don't want it running back down into my tint. I want it to just stay like it is and dry as is, and that way if I have any issues, it's just easier to fix because you're not contending with all that extra moisture that just ran down in there. So there, I probably have a little spot right there by the defroster tab. Push it out. Oh yeah, use a little bit of post heat just to help dry it out. But nothing, I mean, nothing a newbie couldn't handle. You're not heating that up in a manner to shrink it. All you're trying to do is throw enough heat at it to kind of dry that glue and dry that moisture that might be hanging out up there. Because obviously we can't really get a towel up in there very well to absorb that moisture. So that's the only thing, you know, we're just heating it up a little bit to dry it out so it'll stick. What you can do if you don't want to heat it, or if you're in a time crunch, what I could do, and if this was a vehicle that I'd done before, I would have just not heated it. I would have went ahead and did the rest of the car and left those little fingers for, you know, 10-15 minutes until I'm done cutting out the rest of the patterns. And then I'll come back and push them out, and most of the time your glue is going to be dry enough that it'll stick on its own. The reason I'm doing it this way is because if I mess something up, or if I have a finger that's not going to go down, or, you know, something happens because I've never done this car before, I want to know about it right now so that I can redo it right now, and not, you know, do the rest of the car, come back and end up, oh, this finger's not going to stay down, or it's not going to, you know, something else is going on, or some kind of other issue at hand, and then, you know, I've already hit the button that lets the customer know that their car's done, and then their car's not done. So then I'm in a scramble to try to fix this back window, which is arguably the most time-consuming window on a vehicle. So that's why I'm post-heating. I'm doing everything I need to do because I want this window to be perfect before I move on. I'm just cleaning up my mess, absorbing all my water and all that stuff. Again, you know, it's a very, very nice car. It's very well maintained. I don't want, you know, I don't want clean marks or drip stains or anything like that in here. You know, I just like to have it as perfect as possible. I mean, you can see I even laid down a big microfiber towel, so I'm not messing anything up while I'm climbing in the hatch, climbing in and out of it. I mean, I don't know any other way to do it as far as getting in the hatch to tint it. So I try to take you know, whatever precautions I can to keep. Alright, so you're going to see a little bit of the back window here, and then it's going to transition. I'm going to start cutting the front roll up, so I'm going to end this part of the video here, and I'm going to throw in a clip of the finished product. So thanks guys if you made it this far. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.
What's going on, everybody? Doug Lane here, Fast Lane Car Care. Hey, I'm going to show you this finished product. I only got some of the video from this morning from, you know, doing the back window, and I think I might have done the quarter windows, something like that. 20% carbon tint all the way around. Let's see. I ended up just giving up. I'm gonna have to voice over all that. I mean, we had detailer here detailing, had the heaters going. It's raining, so the audio is probably gonna be kind of janky, but here we go. It's a 2003 RSX Type S, Honda Integra overseas. Beautiful car. Like I said, volcanic blue pearl, I believe is what they call it. Don't see very many of these anymore. Really, even when they were new, you didn't see very many of them. But there you go.